doing, folks? That kind of moves. I like that. That's cool. Good morning. How are we, folks? It's 8 o'clock in the morning. That's right. Get up. If you didn't have enough sleep, that's your problem. This is the Doug Rice Show. Welcome aboard. The ride will be smooth and uneventful. I don't know. Hey, I did something. You want to know what I did? Let me tell you what I did, folks. It is the 5th of December 2023. Thank you so much for looking at me twice. Hey, ain't that nice? So, brought to you by TWID. I say that, yes, I did, because TWID is the individual that is responsible for all of the improvements that you see. And I want to show you this. This is the website, theDougRiceShow.com, brought to you by TWID. We have a new addition to the Doug Rice Show website. It is a store. Yes, it is a store. I have finally done it. It was a chore. But the battle, I won it. And for sure, there it is. The Doug Rice Show, the cart, the PDF packages, you know. Ain't I smart? All right, anyway, there we are, folks, and it's all automated, which I really love. In other words, any PDF package that you choose, you will simply donate and receive free in return any of these packages in number. Now, the listing will go up if you miss something that you feel you should have gotten. I will just send it to you. No problem. I will replace any PDF. I will give you any PDF that you don't have from the list that will shortly be populated. But when you get into the lesser numbers, let me tell you something. The one PDF that I am quite happy with is the one we can't really show, and it's with photos. It escapes me. Katrina knows the name of that particular PDF, but it is all of these are great deals. If you're not satisfied, I will replace with an equal amount of PDFs. I will give you a totally different amount of PDFs for no charge, yada, yada, yada. Hey, is that nice or what? Let me put the link in here because I find this exciting news. So please like, subscribe, share. Again, this is all interwoven and interconnected and nearly perfected with the help of TWID. That's what I do. That's why I wear the shirt and the monikered one-of-a-kind black shirt that no one else can get. It's got it's exclusive. And, of course, the hoodies, and I'm waiting for the skincare because, you know, I got to shave nearly every day there, and the beard oil, all of that. We all work as a single unit of Negroes. That's what we do. That's what I do. I'm in TWID. And PDF packages. Do me a favor. Every day that I am able to do lives, it is a gift from the God above that we survive. And it's for him that I do strive. I know that just came out. But what I'm saying, I'm here like if you can think of a cat with its nails gripping on the edge of a very tall and death-defying building, that's where I'm at. No one's answering the call except Negroes. And now you have an ability to pick up the phone. Remember, you click on here, you add it to cart, you pay, you download 15 PDFs, you download 25 PDFs. You can download, look at this, I got 35, 40, you got 30, mixed up a little bit, 60 PDFs for $180. Normally, that's $210 because I priced the PDFs per PDF. And so that list will go up, just to give you a heads up. So, yeah, folks, go to this website. And let me do this real quick, if you don't mind. Go to this website here. Hold on. Oh, Lord. Let me get it. Boom. Go to, boom. I think I got this on auto almost. I'm almost good at this. Almost. Boom. Uh-oh, did I do it? Boom. I did do it. I'm amazing. Please, folks, do me a favor. Please go to thedougrightshow.com. And if you like what I provide by way of education, by way of information for the Negro nation, please, you yourselves can take and have these PDFs for yourself by way of donation. You get them free. There is no charging. Listen to me. So you get those immediately, and you don't have to worry about contacting us by email. You don't have to worry about us emailing them to you. You don't have to do any of that. If you see a PDF that you on a list, but it didn't arrive in your package, just let me know and I'll send it to you. Not a big deal. Okay, are we good? I think that's good. I'd like this. All right, folks. How is everybody doing this morning? Are you watching? Oh, did I take it away? Yeah, just do that. I keep pointing over there. Yeah. I'm proud of that. Thank Twid for that. That is something you thank him for, because sponsorship brings improvement, and he brought this improvement. So shop at twidwear.com. Use the promo code TDRS and get 10% off Twid wear, Twid gear, Twid skincare, Twid footwear. Twid, it's a brand. And that's the reason I'm going to keep it 100 right there. Look at that. Look at that. Yeah, it's good. Okay. All right. So thank you, everybody, for showing up. It's 8:06, 12:05. The news is losing its mind. You know, I've said before, I'll say it again, this is a race war. That's all this is. This is a global race war. Same kind of global race war. See, this race war is different. The race war they had in World War II was against white supremacy, Aryan-like Nazism. Now, the war is for white supremacy, Aryanism, Nazism. So isn't it odd how the pendulum swings? It's an interesting and dynamic thing. All right, so thanks so much for showing up, folks. I'm going to try to keep this as lively as possible. Look down there. You see down there the ticker? Yeah, I want you to like, subscribe, and share. Now that I got a store, hey, prepare for even more. You know, want to take a look at the store again? There it is. Hey, there's the store. Bam! Automated. Get your PDFs, folks. Help a brother out. We're almost out of here, Negroes, please. All right. So today is going to be an interesting offering. I will tell you that, ladies and germs, I go on the hunt for information. Let me tell you why I do this, because I need you to understand why I'm committed to do this to my own detriment. I will do this because I am a teacher. I'm an educator. I come from a line of educators beyond your wildest imaginations. Deeply ingrained is my need to tell you something. So I made up the Doug Rice Show on January 6, 2021, when I saw caucasity lose its mind. And since I woke in 2016, no better thing can I find to do. So I do it for you, folks. So please support this show. Please support the Doug Rice Show. Down there below, you see the giving links. Do that. If you want to, just, hey, buy something. I mean, I don't know, not buy, but give, donate, and get in for free in return PDFs. See, my daughter is telling me to be careful about that, because, you know, it's a thing. All right, here we go. Folks, you're going to like this. Like, subscribe, and share this. You're going to come unglued on this one, folks. Now I'm going to magnify it. Everybody relax. It's going to get magnified. But I want to give this, hold on, it's full due. Let me get that caption there for you. Boom, there it is. Now, this, ladies and germs, let me give it its full attention. This, ladies and germs, brothers and sisters, I found this from the Vera Institute of Justice. And it's a Vera evidence brief. For the record, I want you to gaze at that powerful, insightful, timely, impactful title. Shall we? Let's do this. An Unjust Burden. The disparate treatment of Black Americans in the criminal justice system. Elizabeth Hinton. Let me go over her bona fides here in just a minute, but I read through this slightly, and I have posted short snippets of this information. I don't know if you guys saw that. Now, listen, please follow me on Facebook, on Twitter, X, on Instagram, on TikTok, just follow me as many places as possible. And the only reason I'm saying that, not me, subscribe to all of my social media platforms, because here is where I disseminate the information that I eventually put into a show and give it to you, just so you know. But I'm always trying to drip the information. And the reason I'm on this journey is because it is imperative we understand how dynamic the neglect of reading, that dynamic has damaged Negroes to their core. And most have a disinterest in reading because it takes, more than 5-10 minutes of focus to do so. And I've also looked at these shorts, which, I've made a few of them, but the shorts also chip away at the attention span of the entire population of this land. And I couple the neglect and the non-allowance of Negroes reading. If they caught you reading as a slave or sometimes even as a freedman, the wrong thing, they'd off you. And they kept Negroes ignorant. And I'm going to bring this full circle, because today, unlike what I learned in school, they learned us. Can you believe that? They taught us how to write, penmanship. They taught us the detailed intricacy of the written word and how to read. They don't teach that in schools today. They don't teach these basics that we were taught in the older generation. So this is why I do what I do, and I think I'm good at doing it. I'm good at doing it too. So I hope you support what I do. Let's take a look at this, folks. Wow. This one, this one's fairly decent, folks. I got to tell you, how large can we get it? Not, boom, we'll take it right there because I'm right there on the edge. Isn't that nice? Vera evidence brief for the record. An Unjust Burden. The Disparate. Now, you can pronounce that disparate or disparate. Some people pronounce it disparate. So, An Unjust Burden, the Disparate Treatment of Black Americans in the Criminal Justice System, by Elizabeth Hinton. Let's get her bona fides, shall we? Elizabeth Hinton, Assistant Professor, Department of History and Department of African and African American Studies, Harvard University. Did I say that right? Lachey Anderson, Special Assistant Research, Vera Institute of Justice, and Cindy Reed, Senior Editor, Vera Institute of Justice. I thought those were all her bona fides. I glanced through the information, skimming through it. I try not to take it all in because I want to be as shocked as you are when I read it. So, Elizabeth Hinton led this effort. We see her bona fides. Lachey Anderson was a Special Assistant Research, Vera Institute of Justice, and bringing up the rear, Cindy Reed, Senior Editor, Vera Institute of Justice. This was provided May 2018. This is what I do. Now, some of you may recognize the summary. I did post this. I posted the summary, and I'm going to read it. I'm going to take my voice as far as it can go. There's a threshold my voice reaches, and then it crosses over into a second wind. So you'll have to feel that with me, folks. Here we go. Yet again. All right. Summary. The overrepresentation of Black Americans in the nation's justice system is well documented. Black men comprise about 13% of the male population, but about 35% of those incarcerated. 1 in 3 Black men born today can expect to be incarcerated in his lifetime, compared to 1 in 6 Latino men and 1 in 17 white men. All right. Black women are similarly impacted. 1 in 18 Black women born in 2001 is likely to be incarcerated sometime in her life, compared to 1 in 111 white women. Y'all better like and subscribe and share this one. This one you might want to tell some folks about. Oh, they're bringing stats. The underlying reasons for this disproportionate representation are rooted in the history of the United States and perpetuated by current practices within the nation's justice system. This brief presents an overview of the ways in which America's history of racism and oppression continues to manifest in the criminal justice system, and a summary of research demonstrating how the system perpetuates the disparate treatment of Black people. Now, let me let you know this before we continue, because though this document is 20 pages, whoa, I'm not reading 20 pages. No, the information is in 8 of those pages. 20-page long document. I need you to understand the framework through which this was measured. Okay? It was prepared so that the receipts could be included in the document. I like that. You know, get this one. You know, the documents are $1 a piece if you get any below 4. And then they go up after that if you want any more. And they would, and they should be. They're very, very, very valuable. All right, let's continue. Very interesting. This brief presents an overview of the ways in which America's history of racism and oppression continues to manifest in the criminal justice system. I hope I haven't read this, did I? Oh, well. And a summary of research demonstrating how the system perpetuates the disparate treatment of Black people. I think I did. Oh, well. The evidence presented here helps account for the hugely disproportionate impact of mass incarceration on millions of Black people, their families, and their communities. This brief explains that discriminatory criminal justice policies and practices have historically and unjustifiably targeted Black people since the Reconstruction era, including Black codes. We read those Black codes. The ones in Mississippi, we read those. Vagrancy laws and convict leasing, all of which were used to continue post-slavery control over newly freed people. Now, they don't want you to read this. They don't want you to know this. This is not in your public schools, particularly in Florida. This is something that they feel will damage the psyche of their children. Oh, poor things. All right, this discrimination continues today in often less overt ways, including through disparity in the enforcement of seemingly race-neutral laws. For example, while rates of drug use are similar across racial and ethnic groups, Black people, Negroes, are arrested and sentenced on drug charges at much higher rates than white people. Does that hurt? What's wrong? Y'all don't like that? They don't like hearing that? Let me tell you something. The hardest thing a white person can do is sit through this. Let me tell you why. Because they feel convicted. It's a point they don't miss. They never forget to own all of what we say. You understand? Bias by decision makers at all stages of the justice process disadvantages Black people. Studies have found that they are more likely to be stopped by the police, detained pre-trial, charged with more serious crimes, and sentenced more harshly than white people. You hurting me? Is it hurting your feelings? I don't know. Living in poor communities exposes people to risk factors for both offending and arrest. And a history of structural racism and inequality of opportunity means that Black people, Negroes, are more likely to be living in such conditions of concentrated poverty. And this we know, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, is by design. Remember the other pieces of information that I provided earlier that express the targeted use of prejudice against returning World War II veterans that weren't allowed to take advantage of GI bills that put them in middle class. Effectively, Negroes were told to kiss America's ass. In addition to the clear injustice of a criminal justice system that disproportionately impacts Black people, maintaining these racial disparities has a high cost for individuals, families, and communities. At the individual level, a criminal conviction has a negative impact on both employability and access to housing and public services. It seems like it's a scheme to keep Negroes off the scene. Okay. At community level, disproportionately incarcerating people from poor communities removes economic resources and drives cycles of poverty and justice system involvement, making criminal justice contact the norm in the lives of a growing number of Black Americans. Fine. Now, that being said, what have we read? What point has been made? Very interesting. Now, they have something about these briefs. It's down below. I want to read it here just so. See it down there? Let me move myself out of the way. Hold on. See that? I want to read that. Let me bring this up just a little bit. Here's the reason I want to read that. Okay, first, I'm thorough. Second, don't miss any corners, Negroes. Never miss a corner. About these briefs, public policy, including decisions related to criminal justice and immigration, has far-reaching consequences, but too often is swayed by political rhetoric and unfounded assumptions. The Vera Institute of Justice has created a series of briefing papers to provide an accessible summary of the latest evidence concerning justice-related topics. By summarizing and synthesizing existing research, identifying landmark studies and key resources, and in some cases, providing original analysis of data, these briefs offer a balanced and nuanced examination of some of the significant justice issues of our time. All right, then, that passes muster. Fine. I just wanted to make sure, folks, that's all. That's all. Set aside all jokes. You never know what they try to slip between the cracks, especially when they're talking about the Blacks. I've got to get some help. All right, here we go. We're looking over An Unjust Burden, the disparate treatment of Negroes. Yeah, I know it said African Americans, but I couldn't fit it all into the title, so I just replaced it. Get over it. A snapshot of current disparities in incarceration. Now, let me make sure I haven't gone up or down. I don't believe I have. Present-day disparities show that the burden of the tough on crime and mass incarceration. Hold on, please, because I want to make sure, just bear with me. I want to make sure I'm on page 2. That's what I'm going to do. So just get over it. Okay, there it is. You know, I don't want to make mistakes. That's all. I just want to make sure the show's good. All right, here we go. All right, back at it. Snapshot of current disparities in incarceration. Present-day disparities show that the burden of the tough on crime and mass incarceration eras has not fallen equally on all Americans, but has excessively and unfairly burdened Negroes. I'm going to just keep doing that. Though these disparities have narrowed in recent years, there still remains a wide gulf between Black and white incarceration rates. Now, I want to pause there and tell you that the number one, you are going to get full throttle receipt before this is done. I'm not going to read all of the references, but you're going to see there are more pages of references than there are pages to read. Yeah, I did that. Black people are represented in the American criminal justice system as unwarranted numbers, given their share of the population. Now we've gone over this, but we know that we make 13% of the U.S. population, 35% who are under state or federal jurisdiction with a sentence of more than 1 year. And there's the receipt. 1 in 3 Black men born in 2001 can expect to be incarcerated in his lifetime, compared to 1 in 6 Latino men and 1 in 17 white men. Black people are incarcerated in state prisons at a rate of 5.1 times greater than that of white people, referenced right there. 1 in 18 Black women born in 2001 will be incarcerated sometime in her life, compared to 1 in 45 Latina women and 1 in 111 white women, as we've read previously. Now, you need to understand that those numbers, that's not a mistake. That's not some one-off. That's an intent. That is an expressed attitude in the legal system. That's judges sitting above these defendants atop their ivory towers looking down with all their power, just, going to town. 45% of incarcerated women are Black, although Black women make up 13% of the female U.S. population. 44%. You need to hear that. 44%? Don't tell me that we're committing more crimes. That's BS. That's nonsense. And the crimes committed are all traced back to causalities that resemble caucasity, and that's what I see, so there. As this brief demonstrates, can you see it? I hope you can. Get on a bigger TV, please. As this brief demonstrates, these racial disparities are no accident, but rather are rooted in a history of oppression and discriminatory decision-making that have deliberately targeted Black people and helped create an inaccurate picture of crime that deceptively links them with criminality. Whoa! Share this with your friends, folks. Now we're going to take a look at that. See, Black people have historically been targeted by intentionally discriminatory criminal laws below. Oh, we going to see that because I said so. They are compounded by the racial biases that research has shown to exist in individual actors across the criminal justice system, from police and prosecutors to judges and juries, that lead to disproportionate levels of stops, searches, arrests, and pretrial detention for Black people, as well as harsher plea bargaining and sentencing outcomes compared to similarly situated white people. Folks, feel the impact of these statements and understand that with nearly all of these statements, as you see that tiny number or indicator of reference that you will see at the end of this document, please go to thedougriceshow.com and get these docs. Get all of them. I got tons of them. And when you read them, you put together a story. Okay. All right. Underlying all of this are deep and systematic inequities that have resulted in inordinate numbers of Black Americans living in over-policed, poor communities surrounded by economic and educational disadvantage, known drivers of criminal behavior, resulting in a tenacious cycle of criminal justice involvement for too many Black individuals and their families. And as we will see, communities of color are disproportionately impacted by extreme poverty and its connection to crime. Now, Black people have historically been targeted by intentional and discriminatory criminal laws. Do you not see that as a practice? Because that's what I saw. What? Folks, I'm a Negro in America. You hear me? I am as Negro as they come, and so are all of you, each and every one. If you don't believe me, look at what they do. And they're not done. No, they're not through. Racial disparities in the criminal justice system have deep roots in American history and penal policy. In the South, following an emancipation, Black Americans were specific targets of unique forms of policing, sentencing, and confinement. Laws that capitalize on a loophole in the 13th Amendment that states citizens cannot be enslaved unless convicted of a crime intentionally targeted newly emancipated Black people as a means of surveilling them and exploiting their labor. You need to understand the vacuum that had been created nearly overnight. And I mean, was it wrong? Was it right? I don't know. They could have gradually done what they needed to do without affecting us as they did, me and you. I mean, they could have. There could have been a much more polite way of letting us out. Anyway, I see that. All right, laws that capitalize on that loophole. We read that in 1865 and 1866. The former Confederate legislators quickly enacted a new set of laws known as the Black Codes to force former slaves back into an exploitive labor system that resembled the plantation regime in all but name. Although these codes had recognized the new legal status of Black Americans, in most states, newly freed people could not vote, serve on juries, or testify in court. Now, when we went over the Black Codes of the state of Mississippi in 1865, when we went line by line, every single code that they had on their mind, we saw, too, the disparaging kind of way that Negroes were treated. And I'm going to say that Negroes went so far to be defeated because it's still down there. Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, they are no kind of places for Negroes like you and me, I tell you. And if you're down there, I understand that's where you're found there and that's your land. But dear God, prepare your hand for Exodus because it's right next to us. I've done that before. All right, here we go. Black codes. All right. Although these codes did recognize the new legal status of Black, I did that better than American. Okay. Vagrancy laws at the center of the Black codes meant that any Black person who could not prove he or she worked for a white employer could be arrested. Do you feel welcome? Do you got a smile on your face, Negroes? Do you like it here? What, you think things have changed? No, they just stopped running their mouth. Okay. These vagrants most often entered a system of incarceration administered by private industry. Known as convict leasing, this system allowed for the virtual enslavement of people who had been convicted of a crime, even if those crimes were for things like walking without a purpose. Hold on. You can walk with a purpose. It's called walking without a goddamn smile on your face. My God, I bet that's how they got us too. Skinning and grinning. Damn. Walking without can you imagine being convicted for walking without a purpose, Negro? What you think? Let me tell you what they do. They detain you without purpose. That's how they've masked it now. You understand? When they pull you over because they see you, for them, you have no purpose. And so they must justify your being. That's what these pullovers are for. You understand what you're saying? All right. Just got into it there. I don't like that, walking without a purpose or walking at night. Damn, don't you walk at night. You can close your eyes and disappear. That's probably what gives them a fright. For which law enforcement officials in the South aggressively targeted Black people. Northern states also turned to the criminal justice system to exert social control over free Black Americans. Policymakers in the North did not legally target Black Americans as explicitly as did their Southern counterparts, but disparate enforcement of various laws against suspicious characters, disorderly conduct, keeping and visiting disorderly houses, drunkenness, and violations of city ordinance made possible new forms of everyday surveillance and punishment of the lives of Black people in the Northeast, Midwest, and West. Isn't that wonderful? Don't you love being here? Don't you? Huh? What, they polite now? Is that what it is? Huh? Is that what it is? When did we stop looking for the exits? None of us were invited here. All Negroes were brought here against their will. I can't imagine, and even if there are still some that may have come invited, I ain't talking about them. I don't understand, man. It's like Stockholm Syndrome has taken grip of the entire Negro community. And we act as if we don't see this and then wonder why there's no unity. Moving on. Though such criminal justice, better click on me, involvement was based on racist policies, the results were nevertheless used as evidence to link Black people and crime. After Reconstruction, scholars, policymakers, and reformers analyzed the disparate rates of Black incarceration in the North as empirical proof of the criminal nature of Black Americans. Do you understand how it was reinforced upon our person, what we see today? Do you understand how all of this got this way? Everywhere on the planet, they have ensured they see Negroes as criminals. Who controls the media? In short order, answer the question. Who controls what is seen around the globe? Where does the touchstone, where does it originate from where it goes? We all know. And it seems a calculated measure as they protect their ill-gotten treasure. Higher rates of imprisonment of Black people in both the North and South deeply informed ongoing national debates about racial differences. The publication of the 1890 census and the prison statistics it included laid the groundwork for discussions about Black Americans as a distinctly dangerous population. Did you hear that? You understand where you stand, Negroes? I'm trying to figure this out. We'll see how it goes. Coming 25 years after the Civil War and measuring the first generation removed from slavery, the census figures indicated that Black people represented 12% of the nation's population. Stop. Do you understand that back then, 25 years after the Civil War, we represented 12% of the population, and now we represent 13% of the population? The exponential growth of the population as a whole being as it is. Okay, very interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting. The high arrest and incarceration rates of Black Americans, though based on the racist policies discussed above, served to create the historian Khalil Gibran Muhammad has called a statistical discourse about Black crime in the popular and political imagination. And this data deeply informed national discussions about racial differences that continue to this day. So an historian created something called a statistical discourse about Black crime, and they're using that as the template through which they view Black criminality today. And the guy's name was Khalil Gibran Muhammad. Okay. Indeed, a 2010 study found that white Americans overestimate the sheer, I hope it was a good study, white Americans overestimate the share of burglaries, illegal drug sales, and juvenile crime committed by Black people by approximately 20 to 30%. Did you hear that? In a 2010 study, they found this: white Americans overestimate the share of burglaries, illegal drug sales, and juvenile crimes committed by Black people by approximately 20 to 30%. So they like exaggerating in all directions, both 2 and 4. They like exaggerating about themselves in the positive, and they like exaggerating about Negroes in the negative. Isn't that wonderful? What a wonderful condition to live amongst. I mean, what a wonderful way to exist. And then you understand why I read this information and urge you all to resist. All right. The distorted notions of criminality continued to shape political discourse and policy decisions throughout the 20th century. In 1965, year I was born, President Lyndon Johnson declared the war on crime and began the process of expanding and modernizing American law enforcement. Ooh, buddy, he had some fun, didn't he? Johnson made his declaration despite stable or decreasing crime levels. Wow, did you hear that? So he declared a war on crime despite crime decreasing or being stable. Perhaps he was declaring a war on the bowel movement, maybe that was the real war, because the discontent of Negroes in these communities brought about what he considered higher crime rates or higher activity, higher crime activity and higher criminal activity, higher crime rates can all be categorized into different things. I believe you can define those as different things. And the causality, in my mind, is the most important aspect, the one they choose to ignore. You see, as they said before, folks, and if you remember, poverty is associated with high crime rates. And intentionally, Negroes have been put in an impoverished state, specifically after emancipation into Jim Crow Reconstruction, but then during these Johnson administration, Nixon administration, it was a concerted effort to affect the Negro communities. And why? Because Negroes progressed. I don't want to call it evolution. They did not evolve. They may have reverted back to their more intelligent self, if you understand my point. They kept Negroes as ignorant as possible during slave times. There were very few that could write or read or express themselves if given the need. I mean, Frederick Douglass was an anomaly, folks like that. But as time grew on, they understood that upon the emancipation, they would begin to read, that Negro nation would feel the need to inform themselves, about themselves, for themselves, with themselves, by themselves. And that was something they could not abide. And that's the reason they let it ride. All these laws that, kind of lock our paws away from the education that we deeply need. And that's the reason I encourage Negroes to read. So that's where I'm at with this, folks. I hope you support this show. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell down there. Also, I don't know if the notification works so well, but also use the giving links down there to express yourself as well. All right, we're going to continue. This is the Doug Rice Show. It is, I know it's early, it's late. I don't know. It's 8:42. We're going to continue, and I do thank you for being here. Tell folks that we have this information. Let them know as well. Doug Rice has a store. It'll get you these PDFs almost immediately, like instantaneously. You donate, you get them free. That's awesome. Look at me. All right, let's get back to it. If you like this, well, do what you need to do. All right, what are we doing here? All right. I don't want to miss myself here. All right, so here I was. Perceived increases in crime in urban centers at the time may be tied in part to changes in law enforcement practices and crime reporting as jurisdictions vied for a newly available funding for law enforcement under his initiatives. Got it. I was right. Nevertheless, a discourse about high crime in urban areas, areas largely populated by Negroes, had taken hold in the national consciousness. Statistics linking Black people and crime have historically overstated the problem of crime in Black communities and produced a skewed depiction of American crime as a whole. The FBI's Uniform Crime Report, one commonly cited source for U.S. crime statistics, fails to measure criminal justice outcomes beyond the point of arrest. I need you to understand so you can put their statements to the test, because they love to parrot what they've read, but they never check what they've said. Listen to what they've said one more time. The FBI's Uniform Crime Report, the one that they love coming out their mouth so much, one that they commonly cite, fails to measure criminal justice outcomes beyond the point of arrest. In other words, they're talking about arrest statistics, not conviction statistics, which too are skewed against Negroes. So we don't have to get into that. But it's interesting. Skewed. Fails to measure criminal justice outcomes beyond point of arrest, and thus does not account for whether or not suspects are convicted or if they are innocent, if they've been set up by a racist police force, infected into the police force of nothing but just Klansmen, and they've reported about it. They've sounded the alarm that the United States policing force is filled with right-wing white nationalists, neo-Nazis that love arresting Black people. So let's just continue. In the 1970s, Black people had the highest rate of arrest for the crimes of murder, robbery, and rape, crimes that also had the lowest, oh darn, look what I did. Yeah, I did it. That means I gotta go, I gotta escape, boom. And then I gotta go back, boom. And then I gotta go do that again. I hate that. It's so touchy. It's so touchy. Lowest, and then we go boom, 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 boom. All right. Boom. All right. Had the lowest percentage of arrestees who were eventually convicted. Yet, statistical data on crime based on arrest rates deepened federal policymakers' racialized perception of the problem, informing crime control strategies that intensified law enforcement in low-income communities of color from the 1960s onwards. Dig that, dig that, dig that. That's an interesting factoid. For instance, in trying to understand where and when certain crimes occur, researchers from the National Commission on Law Enforcement and Administration of Justice spoke only with law enforcement agencies and officers stationed in low-income Black communities. Wow. This skewed the data. Of course it did, which intentionally ignored the disproportionate police presence in these neighborhoods, as well as delinquency among middle-class white young men, yet was used to craft strategies for the war on crime, such as increased patrol and surveillance in low-income communities of color. So they built the white males that we see now. You know, the ones that write manifestos and murder Negroes on a Saturday, the ones that like to go to church and murder Negroes as they worship on a Sunday and then are taken to Wendy's for food. You know, so obviously they ignored the growing problem in their own suburban white middle-class neighborhoods and allowed the likes of, you know, folks akin to Donald Trump to fester and grow, while disproportionately bearing down on the neighborhoods of Negroes, those neighborhoods set in place intentionally as ghettos from the start, wherein they squeezed the population and threw in some drugs and some guns and no jobs and no opportunity, and then poured in police to police the situation as crime ensued. I wish I would see a smile on you. I do. I know some of you don't like this information. Some of you are leaving. Maybe you'll come back. You'll come back after you think a little bit. Who knows? Even present-day race-neutral laws and policies can have disparate impacts on Black people. Legislators in the United States no longer explicitly write laws in the racially discriminatory manner that marked the Reconstruction era, but even laws that are neutral on their face can disparatively impact Black people. The war on drugs, for example, inspired policies like drug-free zones and habitual offender laws that produced differential outcomes by race. Drug-free zone laws prohibit the use or sale of drugs in proximity of certain protected areas like schools, playgrounds, parks, and public housing projects. Those who use or sell drugs within a certain distance from these areas typically receive a punitive sentences, such as mandatory minimums up to 8 years in some states. Wow, a minimum is 8 years? Wow. Sentence enhancements, which allows judges to increase a person's sentence beyond the normal range or doubling of the maximum penalty of the underlying offense, as in Washington, D.C. Because of residential segregation, which pushes low-income Black people to high density areas of the city and white people often to less dense suburbs, coupled with the high density of the neighborhoods where schools and urban areas are located, people of color are disproportionately impacted by these laws. Now let's talk about Massachusetts, for instance. In 2004, a review of, let me get it, whoa, wait, oh, they want me to go all the way past that? I think they do. Sentencing data showed that Black people, Black and Latino people accounted for 80% of drug-free zone convictions, even though 45% of those arrested statewide for drug offenses were white. Now, hold on one moment. Let me explain. You're talking about skewing the statistics. If we look up here and we see Black and Latino account for 80%, you see, so they've glommed on the Hispanic Latino community crime rate into the Negro crime rate, which can only have an increase and effect on that 80% level. If we took out Latino and Hispanic individuals and made them their own grouping of individual crime statistics, that would affect the number of Black's crime statistic, Negro crime statistics, and lower it. Do you even understand that? Of course you do. Now, before we do this, I want to go back because I want to cover every bit of this. I do. And so let me see if I can get it to go back up. I can. All right, we're going to go this because you need to know this. Now, I'm not going to read all this down here. You guys can see that. But I am going to read this, the myth of Black on Black crime, because this one's worth your time. The notion that Black people commit violence against other Black people at greater levels than do members of other racial and ethnic groups is sometimes colloquially referred to as Black on Black crime. Pause. What about white on white crime? I never hear anything about white on white crime, and it is happening. Anyway, the term was originally used by those in the Black community to express concerns about the safety of their neighborhoods, but has been wielded more broadly by the media and observers to portray violent crimes committed by Black people. Recently, the term has been invoked to counter Black Lives Matter protests of police shootings of Black men by suggesting that the real problem is Black men shooting each other. These notions of criminality have consequences. Studies have shown that people with racial associations of crime are more punitive, regardless of whether they are overtly racially prejudiced. Do you hear that? Making them more likely to support policies such as the death penalty. But the notion that Black on Black interracial violence is greater than interracial violence for other groups is not borne out by statistics. The receipts don't prove it. A report from the Bureau of Justice Statistics found that most violence occurs between victims and offenders of the same race, regardless of race. Did you hear that? So don't tell me about Black on Black crime, because there's white on white crime. White folks is killing each other. Real bad. Regardless of race, 57% of the nearly 3.7 million reported violent crimes committed against white victims were perpetrated by white offenders. Clutch your pearls. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? So if they come at you and they talk to you about Black on Black crime, talk to them about white on white crime. It's horrible, right? Wow. That's interesting, isn't it? While of the 850,720 reported violent crimes committed against Black victims, 63% were committed by Black people. Nor is there an epidemic of Black on Black violence. The rate of both Black on Black and white on white non-fatal violence declined 79% between 1993 and 2015. Did you hear that? Tell them. The number of homicides involving both a Black victim and a Black perpetrator fell from 7,361 in 1991 to 2,570 in 2016. People got older, people chilled, people are in jail. Do what you will, okay? But by their own design, the statistics could only decline. And yet they continue to talk about an increase, to say the least. Isn't that interesting? The myth of black on black crime is likely fostered, at least in part, by the way that crime is measured. Federal government crime reporting portrays a skewed picture of the relationship between race and offending. The FBI's Unifying Crime Report, which is considered the official measure of the national crime rate, has always emphasized street crime to the exclusion of organized and white collar crime. So what we're talking about here, we're talking about the mafia ain't included in the crime statistic of the FBI? Is that what we're talking about, the mob? Well, you know, they kind of sophisticated and all. You know, they dress in suits when they kill people, right? So you can't really, I don't know, right? And of course, they are what they consider to be white people. So why count them anyway? I figure the FBI works like that since Herbert Hoover was a guy. Herbert was the president. All right. What an interesting factoid. As such, the figures that inform law enforcement strategies and priorities tend to reflect that crimes committed by low-income and unemployed Americans who, in part because of structural inequalities, are disproportionately black. That's just the way it is, right? To the extent that black on black crime exists, it's better understood as a function of structural racism that has led to more black people living in conditions of concentrated poverty than as inherently racial issues. So feel that flow. Look at all the receipts down here, folks. And look, they give you everything. They ain't no joke. This is good. This is a good doc right here. I like this. All right, now we can go down. Boom. Now, they're also talking about the things that they've implemented. Habitual offender and 3 strikes laws penalize individuals with repeat offenses more harshly, typically increasing the sentence length for each conviction. Under these laws, individuals charged with seemingly minor crimes like possession and possession of a controlled substance can incur significantly enhanced sentences. More and deeper criminal justice system involvement of black people is driven by over-policing, which leads to more arrests for black people. Bias by criminal justice system actors can system act can lead to disproportionate criminal justice involving for black people, which leads to more convictions and structural inequality. Boy, they got a lot of stuff here. Seeing. Now, which surrounds black people with the drivers of criminal behavior. Disproportionate numbers of black people are ensnared in the criminal justice system on multiple occasions, setting them up to be subject to the harsh impact of these laws. You see, these laws are put in place for the repeating of offenses that they predict and also put in place. So understand where we are and understand the mechanism that they've used thus far. It's like a churning and burning of Negro life, you know? And again, I don't understand why we stopped looking. Well, when do we stop looking for the exits? I don't get it. All right, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take a 5-minute break. I'm gonna pause right there. I know I'm at location, okay? I'm gonna take a pause for the Negro Nation. I want you to like, subscribe, and share. We're going to come right back, and then we're going to be back here, all right? We're looking at the unjust burden, the disparate treatment of Negroes. Got 18 people in here. Please stay. It's not done. The show's not over. I just want to take a brief break, come back to this. We're going to finish this up because there's a lot more to see. This is one of the better lives, I believe. So my name's Doug Rice. Be back in about 5 minutes. Y'all act nice, okay? Thank you. All right, folks, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. I really, really do. You guys are awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you. I got to remember not to drag the volume down while I'm speaking because I've done a little bit of playback and I know that that distorts my voice, but I will remember these things. Thank you so much for returning, for sticking here with me. My name is Doug Rice. Welcome to the Doug Rice Show. It looks like it's 9:04. It's on the 5th of December. This is what I do. It's what I do. Twidware, brought to you by Twidware. Twid is a great guy. He has extended himself beyond measure and ability and has efforted the ability for us to have our own PDF store. And I, for one, am grateful to Twid for not only revamping the Doug Rice Show website, brought to you by Twid, as you can see. That is all due to Twid and Twidware. And I am forever in this individual's debt because the addition of my PDF store allows you to simply go to this page and just donate and receive free the package in like number. Now, I've got a lot of caveats and guarantees with this, folks. I want to tell you. One of them is that I'm going to get the list of PDFs. I'm actually going to itemize every PDF and have a page for the PDF and the pricing and why it's priced the way it is. But if you receive the PDF that you didn't, you wanted a PDF and didn't receive it, I'll replace all your PDFs, all of them, if you don't like all 60. And as you can see, I got a 60 package. I used to do them for 200. Now the donation level for a 60 package free PDF return is $180. And it is priced below 210, which the price sheet I can show you. I've shown it to you before. It's real simple. $1 per works its way 25 cents all the way up to about $3.75 at the highest for 60. And I want to say this while I have everybody's attention. This kind of PDF sale is done on places like Etsy. I don't go to Etsy and purchase PDFs. And the reason I don't is because the average price is about $8, $9 per document. And so I found that out. And so when I offer $1 per document and $3 at the highest, if you get more, I think I'm offering a great measure amount of value, as well as I review these documents for you and express to you that these are very rare, hard to find documents. Reading is fundamental. I was raised by educators in every respect, a 360-degree educator raised. So it's important that we keep informed. All right, so hopefully everybody got all that. I do appreciate your being here again. My name is Doug Rice. Welcome to the Doug Rice Show. We are reading a publication, The Disparate Treatment of Negroes, An Unjust Burden. Now, this is an amazing piece of writing. If you want to get the details, simply look into the description. We're about halfway through, and I've seen shows run long. Mine, well, you have to have a longer attention span, folks. They are whittling down the attention span of everybody with these shorts and TikTok. And I'm no choir boy. I utilize these platforms, but what I try to do is maintain at least a few videos that take me the long haul that I have to sit through. There are a few that I have shared today. There's a 45-minute video that talks about the DNA of Negroes. Happily, I had my DNA tested and now saw what the brother was saying and am comforted by the fact that he is well informed. So that's about it there. Let's continue with the reading. Thank you so much. This is exactly what you're needing. We are going to start right where we left off. If you're sticking with us, if not, simply back up, rewind, start from the beginning. You'll find this is a very informative piece of educational material. And we stopped there at location-based proactive policies, location-based proactive policing policies like hot spots policing, increase, prevent, preventative police patrols in micro-geographic locations determined by data to have high concentrations of crime. So hot spot policing. So to pick you up where we've left off, they were giving us the reactions to the near created need for police presence in our neighborhoods, while ignoring any statistics that might indicate a problem in less ghetto or more suburban white areas. And as I said before I broke, in my mind, this allowed whatever it is going on in the minds of the white youth today that are causing our children to commit suicide, or calling them the N-word during a sporting event, or putting whipping sounds on their phone to harass a Black queen. I don't know if you heard the latest bit of news. A young child in some high school had the sound of a whip that he would play over and over on his phone behind the back of a Black royal Negro. And I'm just imagining the mental state of these misaligned Neanderthal descendant individuals. Because any of those individuals that express that kind of sentiment in public have to be descendants of the Nephilim. All right, so that's where we are. We're going to see what they did in response to the high crime rate they created. That's a good way of putting it. Such practices arose in response to violent crime in the 1980s and 1990s and were combined with policing strategies like zero tolerance and the broken windows model, which focused police efforts on low-level quality of life crimes like public drunkenness, loitering, or littering, under a theory that eliminating such small-scale disorder would also decrease more serious offenses. Isn't that something? So any excuse they need to put their hands on a Negro. You understand why I think it's time for us to go. All right. All right, such strategies can disparately impact communities of color. In one study of law enforcement in open-air drug markets, place where drugs are sold in the open, typically outdoors or out of cars. In Seattle, researchers found that police officers are more likely to target such markets because the drug trade is visible and easier to access. Even so, the study found that police targeted Black open-air markets over white ones. Why did they do that? They have such an affinity to being kind to one another, don't they? You ever watch them just let each other off with a warning, or you can hear the sympathy in the voice of the white cop talking to the white perpetrator. And then the same white cop comes across a Black perpetrator and the aggression in their voice is now noted. Same offense, same circumstances. He comes at Negroes with this aggressive stance. And I'm going to tell you why that is. It's because he's a coward. Most of these cops that walk around our neighborhoods are fucking scared. Straight up. Don't belong in our neighborhoods. They walk around misaligned, and their minds are in an aggressive stance toward what they are doing. They feel they're in a combat zone instead of they're serving and protecting. Okay? But when they cross over into white neighborhoods, then they get real helpful. And their interests and their suspicions are coated with sugar. You know what I mean? I can imagine him pulling over a little old white lady that decides to shoplift out of Walgreens, as opposed to him putting over a Black woman who does the same. I'm not impressed by these slave catchers. Anyway, so even so, the study found that police targeted Black open, okay, similar, whoa, I did it again, but I think I can fix it. Yes, I did. All right, even so, good. A similar study using the same data calculated both the percentage of people who delivered drugs who were Black and white, as well as the percentages of drug-related arrests based on race. Researchers found that Black people represented about 47% of those delivering crack cocaine, but 79% of those arrested, while white people constituted about 41% of those delivering the drug, but only 9% of those arrested. What? I know they don't like these because let me tell you why they don't like these stats. Let me tell you why they react like that. They react because they don't like hearing the facts. And the facts kind of contradict what they think. It's, makes the whole thing stink. Moreover, a 2018 report on proactive policing concluded that the targeting of physical locations that are deemed high risk by police data is likely to lead to large racial disparities in the volume and nature of police-citizen encounters. According to legal scholar Jonathan Simon, the strategy to reduce violent crime produced its own racially neutral rationale for targeting neighborhoods of high poverty and crime, which were generally almost 100% Black or Black and Hispanic. For example, the 2016 NYPD Inspector General's report found that the rate of quality of life enforcement in precincts citywide was positively correlated with higher proportions of Black and Hispanic residents. Folks, this is an attitude they will never shake. This is a change they will never make. The only solution is us leaving. And anything else is you just self-deceiving. I'm sorry, y'all are tripping. You know where this comes from? This comes from 1863. Y'all better listen to me, man. All of the descendants of the Confederacy are still here. All the traitors are still alive. All of them were left to survive. And they procreated, and they procreated, and they still procreated more. You can believe that the Confederacy is still here, to be sure. Man, please. One well-known example of the disproportionate effect of race-neutral laws in New York's experiment with enhanced sentencing for drug offenses. In 1973, New York State enacted the so-called Rockefeller drug laws. Of all the people they want to name a drug law after. Good Lord, really? A set of statutes that established mandatory minimum prison sentences for felony drug conviction. Under these laws, someone convicted of selling 2 ounces or possession 4 ounces of heroin, morphine, opium, cocaine, or marijuana faced a minimum 15-year sentence in prison. Do you understand what they were doing to Negroes? Washing them. Washing Negroes like dirty laundry, man. You don't want out of here? Y'all want to stay, don't you? Some of you want to stay. I can feel it. I can feel it through the lens. It's horrible. The statutes provide a stark example of the ways in which laws written in race-neutral terms can still impact people of different racial groups in markedly different ways. I don't care about other racial groups. I care about Negroes. And all of this was done for Negroes. That it impacted other racial groups is irrelevant to me. Too much? Let's see. All right. Research on the impacts of the Rockefeller drug laws and later reform to them has found the following. Let's check out the stats. The number of people incarcerated for drug offenses in New York State grew from 1,488 to 22,266 between 1973 and 1999, a near 15-fold increase due in part to these laws. Okay, that impact did not fall equally on people of all races, people. Listen, in 2001, for every 1 white male aged 21 to 44 incarcerated under the Rockefeller laws, 40 Black males of similar age were incarcerated for the same goddamned offense. Like, subscribe, and share. Because there it is there. A study of 2009 reforms to the Rockefeller drug laws found that removing mandatory minimum sentences and increasing access to treatment reduced racial disparities in prison sentences and decreased rates of rearrest. However, following the reforms, Black people arrested on felony drug charges were still nearly twice as likely to receive a prison sentence compared to similarly situated white people. Why is that, folks? Y'all still ain't listening? What? They wrote this, but pull yourselves up by your bootstraps. Yeah, do that. Okay, so let's take a look at this. I want to make sure we don't have anything we missed. All right. So, drug laws, a case study in disparate impact. Drug offenses provide an important case study because information from public surveys consistently demonstrates that rates of drug use are fairly consistent across racial and ethnic groups. However, the practices of law enforcement agencies and the courts have led to widely disparate outcomes dependent on a person's race. Black people make up about 13% of the US population and 15% of the drug users who are 18 years old or older. Yet, 27% of those arrested for drug possession and distribution, 38% of those federally sentenced for drug-related crimes, and 33% of those sentenced by state for drug-related crimes are Black. In other words, the risk of incarceration in the federal system for someone who uses drugs monthly and is Black is more than 7 times than that of his white counterpart. Now look, what do you want to see? There, I made it bigger. US population, 13%, 73% white, Black. You see the graph and you see the sources. Drug uses in the past year. Drug possessions. Look at the black line, look at the white line, or look at the gray line, look at the red line. The gray line represents the Black population. The red line represents the white population. So what's the deal? And how does that make you feel? New York's laws were the first in a wave of similar policies across the country. The federal government and many states enacted mandatory minimums that called for longer sentences for crack cocaine offenses, a drug more heavily used among Black people, over powder cocaine, a drug more commonly used among white people. Remember this? Remember this stat before? They brought this up before. Combined, these drug laws contributed to substantial growth in the number of Black people behind bars and the extreme racial disparities that characterize jails and prisons across the United States today. And look how they note their sources. So let's see, folks. I mean, I don't know. Bias by system actors can lead to disproportionate criminal justice involvement for Black people. Do you see that? Beyond laws and policy that disparately impact Black people, the bias of individual actors in the criminal justice system, police, prosecutors, judges, and jurors, can further disproportionately involve Black people, leading to more frequent stops, searches, and arrests, as well as higher rates of pretrial detention, harsher plea bargaining outcomes, and more severe sentences than similarly situated white people. Some of this bias may be the result of overt racism, but more often it manifests its implicit bias. Implicit bias is the automatic positive or negative preference for a group based on one's subconscious thoughts. That's what we are fighting here, folks, which can produce discriminatory behavior even if individuals are unaware that such biases form the basis for their decisions. Implicit bias affects everyone, but is of particular import when it results in unequal treatment by criminal justice actors. Such biases impact individual stages of the process, like policing, and also accumulate over multiple stages through court or case processing, prosecution, and disposition. The cumulative effect of such individual bias contributes to the disproportionately negative outcome for Black Americans. Studies have found police are more likely to stop, search, and arrest Black people. Why? because they have the attitude that Black people are people worth stopping. And it's not necessarily a racist attitude per se, though I believe it is in each and every way. It's also just the bias, the inherent preference that they have. Again, folks, I have seen the treatment. I've seen the treatment that they give folks in similar circumstances when it's our folks and it's their folks. And though in some situations, depending on location, it's very rare that there's any variation. And so when I look at all of this that is written, I wonder, how is it we're able to continue and remain here under these circumstances? They're not going away. They're actually increasing in their popularity. They are taking the rights that were given back in the 60s, chipping away at what so many Negroes hold dear, when in fact, it may be time for us to leave this place. Yeah, that's just what I get out of it. I don't know. All right, thanks for being here, folks. I'm gonna continue. I don't know. Let me see how much of this is left. Oh my. Oh, guess what? There's too much for me to read. There's too much for me to read. I cannot believe this. So here's what I'm gonna do, because there's a lot. I did not know that there was this much. What I will do is stop here, and I will bring this to a close, only because I don't want to wear my voice out. I'm one of those, but I will pick it up from studies have found police sentencing, and I can do a part 2 on this. I believe I can do that. I believe I'm halfway through on this. So studies have found police are more likely to stop, search, and arrest Black people. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to do a part 2 in the morning. I'm going to take it from here. I need you to see how much more is being read. That's the next page. And that's the next page. And that's the next page. And that's the next page. There might be a 3-parter. So there are 10 pages, but I did not take into account the fact that there was such a large amount of writing, and I want to get through all of this. I do. So I'm going to take it from here. I might even take it from here, and we're going to continue this tomorrow. But again, if I might say, all of these documents, all of these PDFs are available today. Right now, I'm going to clean up how it presents itself. I promise I will do it. I love it because I'm proud of it. But there it is, folks. I really, really like what I'm doing. I think we have a format for this show developed by myself, Detrina, Twid, and the format is just educational, and that's it. I'll try to have guests on. I'll try to have folks that want to chime in, but when I've opened up the call line, nobody calls in. Now, I will do questions and at some point, but that just has to be on a totally different prepped show. This is, I would say, the anchor of the Doug Rice Show effort. Education, providing PDFs free for donations. As you can see, Negro Nation, look at me. All right, anyway, hey guys, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it. We're gonna pick up tomorrow. Gonna be the exact same document. Keep it uniform. This contains a lot of great information. I think we can continue from here. What do you think? I think so. All right, well, that's the show. I do like that. Do you like that? I like that so much. All right, folks, I got to go. Thanks for tuning in to the Doug Rice Show, brought to you by Twidware. As you can see, the improvements are everywhere. He's done it. We appreciate Twid. Thank you so much, sir. That's it. I got to go. Yes, I know my voice, but you got to get me later, too. I'm going to do news. We're going to do weather. We're going to do a lot of stuff. I'm trying to be clever, too. Okay? All right, folks. All right, I'm out of here. You guys have a wonderful day. My name is Doug Rice. I have nothing more to say. And so I will take the rest of the day to prepare for what's next. And we'll see what's next, all right? You guys have a wonderful day. While you're out there, if you don't want to get stopped for being vagrant, get the smile off your face and they'll think you got business, right? Twidware, that's what I do. All right, folks, you have a wonderful day. I know I will.